Welcome to TuneLeak TV. I am Ben Craven, a cinematic rock artist from Brisbane, Australia. On this episode of TuneLeak TV, I want to show you Last Chance to Hear. So I've mentioned on previous episodes that I am reworking the Last Chance to Hear album, and in particular, the track Last Chance to Hear. Now, for a number of reasons, to refresh your memories, it was during Last Chance to Hear that this TuneLeak idea came to fruition, which was I would put bits of music up for download and have them available, have them for sale, and anyone who bought that then got a discount on the album when it came out. This had the flow-on effect of making it very difficult to sequence the album after the fact without confusing song titles. And, maybe I was the only one who was going to get confused by that, but I felt like I should stick to the original song titles. So possibly it was a little disjointed. So one thing I particularly wanted to do was to take Last Chance to Hear Part 1 and Part 2 and put them together where they belong. Now, there was a minor problem with that, in that Part 1 was in the key of D and Part 2 was in the key of E. Let me demonstrate very quickly.
We must be right.
This is in D.
With all the marks of bliss we're taking. The fight against your last chance to hear.
And if we go to Part 2, it is in the key of E. Perhaps it's not immediately noticeable, but it did present problems trying to link the two. Now, fun fact, Part 1 originally was in the key of E before it was split up, and I transposed it down to D so it would better match the critical mass tracks. I have had to re-record the vocals and some of the instruments because there's just some things you can't transpose. Vocals especially, unless you want to sound like a chipmunk or quite unnatural. Now let me give you an example of these vocals. So back to Part 1. And now that's moved up into E. So there's kind of a choir of voices there. One of the things that was running through my head in this track is that originally I thought maybe a demented chat show theme, but also the opening number of a musical where you have a chorus of singers, you have a call and response, even a Greek chorus kind of idea. So someone singing "Believe the Hype," and then the response, "We're the saviors you've been craving," and there's a lot of that to and froing going on, or a different person popping up to sing each line, and the chorus responds. But to fill out the track, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's six vocal tracks. The main track going through a guitar amp.
Believe the hype.
We've got a double track.
Believe the hype.
That's kind of hard pan left and right. We've got a whispered version.
Believe the hype.
And we also have the octave above,
Believe the hype.
which is not so convincing on its own, but in the mix, it's fine. I present to you the vocal track.
Believe the hype. the saviors you've been craving.
So that's what's going on there.
Believe the hype. We're the saviors you've been craving.
Now, second problem. We got the vocals sorted. We had to link part 1 with part 2. Well, it turns out that was easier than expected because the two parts were meant to be together. So if you're familiar with the first version of Last Chance to Hear, great. If you're not a big deal. But I can show you the way the two parts join now. And it is, well, I don't know, I think it's fairly seamless, and it's certainly what I had in mind. So you can kind of see the original intent there. So, all right, so that's second thing we've solved, the transition. Now, third thing was I decided to add an extra verse to round out part 2 and to bring back the main theme. And I actually think this verse has been written for a couple of years. I don't know, I discovered it somewhere on some hard drive somewhere. If you're familiar with the lyrics, they're quite specific. It is an indictment on, well, at a superficial level, the music industry and the power of persuasion, the power of marketing, the games that people play, and creating a false sense of alarm. Hence, this is your last chance to hear. Since I released this, I still chuckle every time in my inbox I get an email from a music marketer or something like that, or even any retail shop where they say your last chance to buy, last chance to save, last chance to whatever. So we've had this verse 1 going through describing the problem, and I always felt verse 3 could be an epilogue set way off in the future, an interstellar traveler coming down to take a look to see what's happened to the end of the earth. And the original concept for Last Chance to Hear was, of course, also pointing towards Last Chance to See, the Douglas Adams, Mark Cowadine book, radio series where they document this is your last chance to see certain species animals. So I always had that idea of the pool of water drying out in a drought, and all the entertainers getting stuck there, and what would they do? So I'd put these lyrics up before on Patreon, but there is a proper vocal performance of them now, so I'm actually going to play you that. So we get through this guitar solo in part 2. Now it reprises the intro and verse. So I'm actually going to play this for you now. primordial soup of mud and slime evaporated, signifying it's your last chance to hear. The laugh was not intentional, but it happened and it sounded good, so I kept it before anyone asks. Now let me explain a bit more about this third verse. Clearly, it's got an effect of it coming through a radio, from a space vehicle of some description. Let me hone in on that and show you what's going on. So we've got the space noises going on. Bit of extra noise happening. And then we've got the vocal.
And in the end, we bought the networks verbatim. All said and done, all the content now forsaken.
There's a cool plugin that does the ch at the end. And we had a few synths. There's a synth, there's a synth, there's a Hammond. Oh, there's choirs. And somewhere there's a Hammond. It's probably right in front of me.
We can't explain.
So that's verse 3. So, third part and fourth bit. Just there's almost a celebration at the end of this track, and it's a little funkier now, where instruments are brought up and the bass is more prominent. So, there's that at the end, because we get to the end, it's pretty grim, and it's almost like at the end of the track we need a stress release. Everyone gets a chance to solo. And by everyone, I mean the keyboard player, the guitarist, the other guitarist, the second keyboard player, and even the bass player is almost playing lead bass. So and so on. So I'm yet to add the bookend bits of music, introduce it, which it sounds like it's through an old record. But all up, we've got about, it's about 10 minutes long, this consolidated last chance to hear version. Probably 11 once the other bits get in. So that is the first cab off the rank for the reimagined Last Chance to Hear album. The big surprise will be Spy in the Sky, where you'll notice on the original album it is out of order. There is a part 1, a part 2, and a part 3, but we hear part 2 and 3 before we hear part 1. And again, there's a very good reason for that. They flow in that order, part 1, 2, and 3. But in terms of the album, I was kind of adventurous, and I thought, well, actually, maybe part 1 works better in the flow of the album over here, and part 2 and 3 work better here. But I will join 1, 2, and 3 together into the epic it was always supposed to be, because, I got a thing for epics right now after Monsters from the Id. Everything's an epic now. I'm very, very keen to hear parts 1, 2, and 3 together as the consolidated piece. So that's the update on Last Chance to Hear. More soon once I've got something to show you. And thank you, as always, to my patrons, these guys. Really appreciate the support. I will have a new video for you soon. Until then, take care and we'll see you soon.